Whether it's pitching, fielding, hitting, speed, age, or health, there is no complete team in the AL West. None of these teams are a lock. This is a 4-team race. If I had to put money on it, I'd go with... Ta-da! The A's had a massive fire sale coming out of the lockout. Their ownership has absolutely no desire on ever spending money to win games. They need to relocate. They need to sell the team. Before trading Sean Manaea, this tweet here by Bob Nightingale showed correctly that there was 5 players making more than the entire team. After that trade, however, that number is now 11 total players. Also, since we're talking about awful things in baseball, shout out to Bob Nightingale, who continues to be the worst at MLB Twitter. Here saying that Max Scherzer was a Yankee instead of a Met. Bob always taking L's. It's the only guaranteed in life. Under new GM Chris Young, the Rangers had the most aggressive offseason in Major League Baseball. They had 2 massive additions this offseason, Marcus Semien and Corey Seager. These 2 signings are going to make the Rangers go from one of the worst middle infields and middle of the lineups to one of the best middle infields and middle of the lineups. These guys are absolute studs. They've had breakout years the past couple of years. Semien popped onto the scene huge with Toronto last year. Seager has been great when healthy. If they can stay healthy, these guys are going to be fantastic for this organization and probably instantly add 10 wins to their team. Those weren't the only Chris Young signings in the offseason, though. The GM also added Jon Gray, who was projected to be an ace for the Rockies when he first came up to the team. Now, I don't think Gray on his own, even if he bounces back having left that horrible situation for pitchers, is enough for this pitching staff. But if the young guys can continue to develop and they have a couple of surprising years, the Rangers can definitely compete with what they have on the roster. I expect the Rangers to hit. I expect them to struggle to pitch early on, but if they can shore it up, they are going to be right in the thick of the playoff race. Worst case scenario for the Texas Rangers is this is a rebuilding year where they make it hell for other teams in the division. They're no longer going to be an easy W on the schedule of everyone else, and they are going to compete, if not this year, next year, but do not be shocked if they're a dark horse in this race until the very end. While the Rangers are hoping to become last year's Mariners, the Mariners are hoping to get one step better and get themselves into the playoffs. They had a tremendous last year that no one saw coming. Their young guys played way above their track progress to make impacts on the Major League roster. They got timely hitting, and they had great pitching. They added to the pitching staff by bringing in Cy Young Robbie Ray, who they hope is going to continue to stabilize and progress. Julio Rodriguez made the team out of spring training. That is such a great sign for M's fans. They are going all in on this season. He is probably going to be a stud. There's already the immediate comparisons to Aaron Judge. Watch out for that. This dude is going to be electric. If he can play well and the pitching can hold up, this is going to be a better version of last year's team, especially considering the additional firepower added by the Mariners in the offseason with the Suarez-Winker trade. They are a lot better offensively. They are as good defensively, and they're probably better pitching-wise. This team is going to make a lot of noise. M's fans, this is going to be a great year for you. This team has as good of a chance as anyone to win the division. The Angels once again find themselves having to answer the same question. Is this finally the year? Finally the year that they get over the hump and perform the way that they are always projected to. They have 2 of the best players in baseball in Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani. And honestly, if it's not this year, I don't know when it's going to be for them. Ohtani had the most magical year I think that we will ever see for the rest of our lives last year. 2-way superstar, pitched great, hit even better, had power all year, stole bases, he fields well, he was striking out guys left and right. Obviously, the opening of the All-Star game, he got the MLB The Show cover this year. He was spectacular. I don't think it's even possible for him to repeat that 162-game performance, but I do think he stays at an elite level as one of the best players in baseball. And obviously, you can't talk about the Angels without talking about Mike Trout. If he's healthy, you know what you're going to get from him. He's going to be in the Triple Crown race. He's going to be the runaway winner of the MVP every single time. He is the best player in baseball. He still holds that mantle, even though he's missed significant time in the last 4 or 5 years. The only question with this guy is he going to be known as the right-handed Ken Griffey Jr., who was spectacular until injuries caught up with him and then he could never stay on the field but always performed? Or is he going to make his own mark and arguably become one of the 5 best players of all time by just getting through this injury history he's recently had and continuing to dominate the sport, because there is nothing slowing him down. His eye is still great. His strikeout percentage is reducing every single year. He's got crazy power. He is a megastar. As far as his counterparts on the team go, the one issue that has always held back the Angels during the Mike Trout era is their pitching, starting and bullpen both. They shored it up by finally finding a closer in Iglesias last year, and now this offseason, they added Thor on a 1-year prove-it deal. They also shored up the bullpen by bringing in Aaron Loup. They got pieces like Archie Bradley. They added guys who are on prove-it short-term deals across the board. Their pitching is much deeper and much better on paper than it's been in a long, long time. The Angels, I think, if they stay healthy, are finally going to piece it all together and get Mike Trout back into the playoffs. But in order to do that, the Angels are going to have to finally dethrone the champion, the Houston Astros. And at the risk of sounding like Max Kellerman talking about Tom Brady here, I truly think this is going to be the year that the Astros finally have a little bit of a regression. The band is no longer together in Houston. Carlos Correa split down to Minnesota in free agency. The team was built around him and Altuve. Now it's just Altuve as far as the face of the franchise goes. And who knows, how much longer can Jose Altuve continue to be an elite second baseman in baseball? His age is getting up there. He's very short in stature. The aspects of his game that make him elite are going to start regressing very soon, if not already. He's not the same player he was already 3 years ago. And if he takes another step down, that is going to be a huge hit to the Astros. Although this year is more of a transition phase as Kyle Tucker and Yordan Alvarez step up to become the face of this team. They also have Jeremy Pena, which is the reason why the Astros felt comfortable with Carlos Correa leaving in free agency there to help. Now, all because this is a transition phase does not mean this is a complete, the Astros are done. They're retooling. They're still going to be good. It's just they have more questions than they've ever had in the past. Does JV return to form? Does Michael Brantley continue to produce? Does Alex Bregman bounce back from his rough year? There are so many questions on this team, including whether or not Altuve maintains to play well, and if Tucker and Yordan can step up, and if they can make this go through a full 162-game season, especially with the McCullers injury. I think they would have been the best team if this was the same exact roster last year or 2 years ago, but this year it's a different story. I think it's completely up in the air. Which brings me to the question we're answering here. Who will win the AL West? There's 4 teams that have a chance. The Rangers have the worst odds, but it's going to be a great year for their fans. Enjoy the growth. You guys are going to be fun to watch for the first time in a long time. You're also going to have the Mariners coming in, I think, 3rd here. They were so good last year, it really shot expectations through the roof for their fans. And I would not be shocked at all if they won this division because, like I said, this is truly a 4-team race. 3 teams have a very good chance of winning. I just don't think that the Mariners, despite being better, are going to get over the hump, which leaves us down to 2 teams, the Angels and the Astros. The Astros have ran this division forever. They've always been year in and year out the best team for the last half a decade. But the Angels have the best player in Michael Trout and the best dynamic duo in Trout and Shohei Ohtani on the team. I think if everyone stays relatively healthy, the trade deadline is going to decide what happens in this division. But since we can't predict the future and see exactly where guys are going yet, you have to go with what is there right now. And given the health and the depth of these teams staying exactly like it is on opening day, the Angels have finally had the pieces that they need to pull it out. And I think baseball's best player, Mike Trout, will finally get a second chance at the playoffs. I think the Angels are going to win the division. I think the Astros and the M's are going to be neck and neck for a wild card spot. The deadline is going to decide this, but this is finally the Angels year. That is going to do it for this video, everyone. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button and hit the sub button because this is the kind of content we're going to be rolling out here on this channel nonstop. In the next video, we're taking a look at the NL East, which has got my favorite team in it, so that's going to be a fun one to examine. Have a good one. Stay safe.